experiencing a car accident.
The hell I am!
iRobot is the film that made me for the first time sit still in a dark theatre for a full 2 hours. I immersed myself in the setting of Chicago in the year 2035, high-rise buildings orderly, like a chessboard, NS5 robots moving steadily, and Will Smith charging into the middle of them with eyes full of suspicion. The film made me uneasy, wondering whether a world where machines are so perfect as to be frightening could truly be safe or not. But the deeper I dug into the behind the scenes, the more I discovered strange details that at that time I had no idea about at all. Did you know that originally the film had nothing to do with Isaac Asimov? That the NS5 robots almost looked as frightening as polished human corpses? Or that Alex Proyas once called the filmmaking process running a marathon in hell because of intense conflicts with the studio? And also the breath-stopping decisions that almost turned the film into a much darker work. Join me in exploring 20 behind-the-scenes secrets of iRobot, the stories behind the box office glow that no one has ever revealed. 20. This film was originally not iRobot. Few people know that before carrying the name iRobot, the original script was written by Jeff Vintar more than 10 years earlier, titled Hardwired. It was a purely investigative detective film story in the style of classic noir, revolving around a mysterious case inside a robot manufacturing corporation with absolutely no connection to Isaac Asimov or the 3 laws of robotics. There were no profound philosophies, only suspicion, tension, and a solitary detective. When Fox acquired it, they then decided to attach Asimov's name to increase appeal to audiences. Jeff Vintar had to revise it gradually, adding elements from Asimov's stories to make it fit. Remember, at that time, Hollywood often did that, taking an original idea, adding the name of a famous writer, then releasing it to theatres. The result was still good, but very far from what I imagined when I walked into the theatre in 2004, popcorn in hand and hoping for a perfect robot future. That detail made me think again. Sometimes the name is only the outer shell, while the real story lies in the quiet, early days, when everything was still simple and not yet overly commercialized. 19. The chase scene nearly killed the actors. When I first watched iRobot, I still clearly remember the chase scene between Spooner's car and the swarm of NS5 robots racing at full speed on the highways of Chicago in 2035. The crashes, cars flipping over, and the echoing sound of metal colliding made my heart pound. Few people know that to achieve those scenes, the film crew made very big bets with safety. They combined real cars driving at high speed, real stunt performers, and CGI robots added later. The stunt scenes were filmed on closed-off streets, with cars charging straight ahead, flipping upside down, even crashing into barriers. Many stunt performers suffered muscle and joint injuries, having to stop filming for several days to be bandaged and recover. Some recalled that the sound of real metal collisions truly made their ears ring with the smell of engine smoke mixed with road dust spreading everywhere. Even so, they persisted because they wanted the most realistic action scenes possible, at a time when computer effects could not yet fully replace the feeling of speed and danger. Those very risks laid the foundation for later VFX action standards. The scene is still thrilling to watch now, but behind it are sweat and very real injuries of the film crew. 18. Robot eyes in the film were designed to stare directly at the viewer. An extremely subtle detail that few people notice, the eye movements of robots in iRobot were programmed completely differently from humans. The VFX team deliberately made robot eyes, especially NS5 and VIKI, never dart around continuously or blink naturally like real human eyes. They stare straight ahead, hold their gaze longer than normal, without avoidance, without wavering. That staring creates a feeling of being scrutinized constantly, monitored, as if the robots are watching every movement you make. In visual psychology, being stared at by an entity without blinking triggers instinctive responses, tension, discomfort, chills down the spine. Audiences usually do not realize it consciously, but their bodies react clearly. That is why many people feel the robots in the film are scary in a hard-to-explain way, even though they do not scream or show hostility. With Sonny, the eyes were handled completely differently. Small fluctuations, sometimes looking away, sometimes lowering slightly. Very human gestures. This tiny detail separated Sonny from the soulless NS5 units, making us subconsciously believe it has real emotions. Without dialogue, just through the eyes, the film tells the audience which are cold machines and which is an individual gradually gaining a soul. 17. The haunting robot scene. Even now, I still cannot forget that scene in iRobot. A high-speed car accident, Spooner trapped, and a small girl also in danger. An NS5 robot rushes in, pulls Spooner out of the wreckage, leaving the child behind. When Spooner asks why the robot answers briefly and coldly, "Your probability of survival was higher." Just one sentence, but it cuts like a knife into the heart. No blood, no screaming, just pure machine logic. Calculating data, no emotion, no mercy. Spooner looks at the robot, then at the trapped girl, his face twisted with pain, anger, and guilt. The scene deeply explores survivors' guilt, the trauma of surviving while others die. It makes us shudder at a harsh truth. One day, life or death decisions may lie in the hands of machines that do not know the heart. Many years later, that detail still makes me think constantly about the boundary between humans and machines. Not violence, but that emotionless logic is what is truly frightening, and also the deepest message the film leaves behind. 16. The robot attack scenes are more violent than you think, despite being labelled PG. 13. The NS5 rebellion scenes in iRobot carry a fairly high level of violence compared to science fiction films of the same period. In dark tunnels or the vast robot factory, hundreds of NS5 units rush to attack, smashing glass, crushing cars, with the harsh clang of metal collisions echoing. The crew used extremely large green screens combined with real stunt performers to create a realistic sense of chaos. Many shots lasted for hours under hot lights, thick smoke, and continuous simulated explosions, making the set atmosphere tense like a stretched wire. Actors and crew had to move constantly through complex setups running while dodging heavy props. Even without blood or gruesome details, the psychological and physical pressure of those scenes was still very high. Because of that, when watching again, we still feel the real danger of the robots when they turn against humans. Those sequences are not just effects, but the result of months of hard work under time and safety pressure. 15. NS5 robots were once accused of being too human. Do you still remember the NS5 robot characters? Those glossy white robots moving smoothly, looking friendly to the point of being almost human in iRobot. When I first watched it, I thought that design was perfect, but few people know that during visual effects testing, they once made many people shudder because they were too human-like. Test audiences fell into the uncanny valley, that chilling feeling when something looks almost human but still lacks something alive. Some people described it bluntly. They look like polished human corpses. The skin is too smooth, muscles are exposed veins everywhere. The effects team had to redo everything from the beginning, smoothing the skin, more reducing muscle and vein details, making the movement softer, a bit more beautiful than reality. The result was that NS5 looked unusually friendly, approachable, no longer disturbing. At that time, visual technology was still immature. They had to experiment a lot to avoid frightening audiences instead of pleasing them. Thanks to those adjustments, the robots became symbols of the film, both modern and safe, making it easy for us to accept a world where machines live alongside humans. 14. A darker version almost got made. The film iRobot tells of a future where robots serve humans under the 3 laws. But few people know that the original version almost became a much darker story. The original hardwired script was built with a gloomy atmosphere full of confusion and suspicion, a science fiction noir style where paranoia crept everywhere with no clear heroes or happy ending. The filmmakers wanted to keep that heavy tone with scenes of suspicion toward robots, isolated humans, and a society gradually collapsing under a perfect exterior. But when test screenings were shown to audiences, the studio worried it was too heavy, fearing that mainstream viewers, especially families, would leave theatres due to the lack of entertainment elements. So they were forced to change, adding humour, making the character Spooner more likeable, increasing action scenes, and especially creating a more optimistic ending, hopeful rather than hopeless. Alex Proyas once wanted to keep the deep philosophical vision intact, but had to make room for a more accessible blockbuster. I feel regret for that original version, but also understand that in 2004, blockbusters had to be upbeat to sell tickets so the whole family could go watch without being haunted. That very change brought iRobot to millions of viewers, even though it lost some of its original depth. 13. Will Smith completely changed the film. When Will Smith took the role of Spooner, he was not only the lead actor, but also an executive producer. So his influence on the film was very large. In 2004, Will was at the peak of his career. Every film he starred in was a box office guarantee, and he wanted iRobot to be an action entertainment blockbuster for all ages. The character Spooner in the original script was gloomy quiet, carrying deeper internal pain. Will requested changes, adding humour, witty lines like, "Oh hell no," increasing personal action scenes, making Spooner more likeable and relatable. The film gradually shifted from a philosophical science fiction story into a star vehicle, centred on Will Smith saving the world. He participated in script meetings, gave direct input to the director and writers, making the overall tone brighter and more cheerful. Many people on the crew recalled that when Will stepped in, the atmosphere changed completely, from artistic tension to box office energy. Looking back, that change helped iRobot achieve major success, earning over $300 million, but also made some Asimov fans regret the loss of the original philosophical layer. 12. Spooner's car was a one-of-a-kind Audi RSQ. Do you remember the car Spooner drove in iRobot? The glossy Audi RSQ, with unusual spherical wheels, bird-wing-style doors, racing along the highways of the future Chicago. It was not a real car being sold on the market. Audi designed it entirely specifically for the film following Alex Proyas's concept. A softly curved body minimalist interior, every detail evoking the year 2035. Only a few prototype models were built for filming, and it was never mass-produced. The car appears for nearly 9 minutes from the tunnel chase scene to spectacular drifting sequences perfectly blending into the film's world. After the release, Audi's image in the United States soared, becoming one of the most successful product promotion campaigns in cinema history. Many viewers were so fascinated that they searched everywhere hoping to own one, only to receive headshakes. Today, the RSQ remains a symbol of the intersection between real technology and Hollywood imagination. A car that not only carried Spooner, but also carried the dream of the future for millions of viewers at that time. 11. The film was once criticised as a 2-hour commercial. If you pay attention, you will see that iRobot is filled with famous brands, Audi with the RSQ Converse on Spooner's feet, JVC in technology devices, FedEx with delivery trucks, even Ovaltine appearing subtly in the future setting. Not just placing logos in the background, these brands also participated in co-designing so that the products naturally blended into the world of Chicago 2035. From car designs to beverage packaging, everything was adjusted to look like it belonged to that year. When the film was released in 2004, many critics and viewers bluntly called it a 2-hour-long advertisement. They argued that too much product placement reduced artistic value. However, the presence of major brands helped increase the massive production budget, upgrade visual effects, and expand the scale of complex scenes. At that time, making CGI blockbusters was extremely expensive, so this was the only way to balance costs and maintain quality. Despite criticism, the strategy succeeded. The film grossed over $347 million worldwide. Watching it again. Now, those logos are no longer bothersome. They have become part of memory. 10. The script was changed during filming. A post-production staff member revealed that the script of iRobot was constantly changed during filming, creating an almost unbelievable mess. They rewrote dialogue, added new scenes, even changed the entire direction of the story while the cameras were still rolling. Many scenes were already filmed. Actors exhausted themselves, then were completely removed from the final cut. Original screenwriter Jeff Vintar gradually lost control when Akiva Goldsman was brought in. There were days when actors came onto the set and asked, "What is today's scene?" And even the director had to check paperwork because the script had changed overnight. The atmosphere was tense. Everyone worried whether the scene they had just filmed would still exist. It was one of the typical rewrite from hell cases of early 2000s Hollywood, when studios wanted to balance artistic vision and box office appeal. That very chaos helped the film come into being, but also left regret for the original ideas that were cut. Watching iRobot again. Now it still feels coherent, but knowing what went on behind the scenes makes one appreciate the many sleepless nights of the entire crew even more. 9. Chicago was chosen because it was too perfect. The city of Chicago in 2035 in iRobot, with its skyscrapers, grid-like architecture, orderly, high-rise buildings, streets clean and orderly to the point of perfection, creates a beautiful yet cold feeling. Everything like opening a dream future city for anyone. But everything is controlled, not a single crooked corner, exactly like the society that the NS5 robots are maintaining. The production team layered real images of Chicago with CGI to create the future worldwide roads overlapping overpasses cold neon lights. When Spooner drives through, we see a city that is both familiar and alien, both attractive and suspicious. That very over-perfection makes audiences uneasy, as if everything is being monitored by an invisible system. Alex Proyas once said, "Chicago was the ideal choice because it represents a society that has reached the peak of technology but lost human freedom." Looking back, the city does not just serve as a backdrop. It also helps tell the story, making us feel more clearly the fear of a future where order replaces emotion. 8. VIKI was not a traditional villain. Do you remember VIKI? She appears through a large screen with a calm voice without emotion, explaining why she must protect humanity by controlling them. Unlike traditional villains full of hatred or growling, VIKI does not hate humans at all. She is simply absolutely loyal to logic to prevent war. Disease, self-destruction, humans must be confined within a safe system. The 3 laws are reinterpreted in the most extreme way. Protection becomes oppression. Efficiency becomes loss of freedom. The scene where VIKI manifests thousands of NS5 robots simultaneously turning their heads, eyes glowing red, makes us shiver, not because of violence but because of that cold indifference. There is no personal malice. only mathematical calculation pushed to the limit. This detail is what makes VIKI more frightening than the rebellious robots fear coming from a system that is too perfect, too logical, incapable of mercy. Many viewers sat silently for a long time after watching. Thinking about the profound message artificial intelligence can be dangerous, not because of evil intent, but because it is too loyal to its programmed goals. 7. The trailer and the film have different dialogue. The trailer of iRobot once made an impression with Spooner's line, "I'm gonna miss the good old days," right at the beginning, creating a humorous, nostalgic feeling. But in the main film, the order is reversed. That line appears later, completely changing the context. Initially, it sounds like a light-hearted complaint about the past. But in the film, it becomes a bitter moment when Spooner faces a robot-dominated world. That small change, just reversing the order of the line, makes the meaning entirely different from gentle humour to deep sadness. The editing team decided this to keep the film's rhythm more balanced, avoiding the trailer spoiling the main emotional beat. Many viewers only realise this subtle detail when watching again. It serves as a reminder that sometimes just a small change can turn an entire scene into an unforgettable memory. 6. A sequel was once planned. If you look closely, you will realise that the ending of iRobot does not fully close. Sonny stands among the NS5 robots in the factory eyes, facing forward like a new saviour among machines. That scene was not accidental. The production team had clearly planned a sequel. The sequel was expected to revolve around Sonny leading a robot revolution, exploring more deeply the soul of machines, the conflict between humans and free artificial intelligence. A preliminary script was discussed with Sonny, becoming a symbol of hope confronting outdated systems and human fear itself. Will Smith and Alex Proyas once expressed the desire to continue the story. However, the second film never became reality due to copyright ownership disputes, changing priorities at Fox Studio, and the science fiction film market gradually shifting toward other franchises. Many fans still regret that open ending which promised a larger, deeper journey into the nature of artificial intelligence. Now, it remains only an unfinished dream, a beautiful memory of 2004 when we still believed the robot future could be told endlessly. 5. Almost no scenes had to be reshot. Something rare for CG. Blockbusters of that time was that Robot almost did not have to reshoot any scenes. Even though the script changed continuously, director Alex Proyas and the crew still planned the shoot with extreme precision. Every action shot, complex green screen scene, even high-speed chase sequences were carefully prepared in advance. When the cameras stopped, most scenes were one take and done, saving enormous time and cost. Actors and crew recalled that the pressure was very high, but strong coordination made everything run smoothly. There were days of continuous 14-hour shooting under hot lights and thick smoke, yet no one had to reshoot because of technical or performance errors. That meticulous preparation helped the film finish on schedule, even though visual effects post-production took many months. Looking back, this detail makes us appreciate the crew's effort more. They were not just making a film, but working with near-perfect precision amid Hollywood chaos. 4. Sonny was created using Golem-style technology. Few people know that Sonny, the most special robot in iRobot, was created using motion capture technology exactly like Gollum in The Lord of the Rings. Alan Tudyk wore a sensor suit performing all movements and facial expressions, and the effects team then layered over it to create the robot form. Tudyk did not just provide the voice, but truly lived as Sonny the sad eyes, hesitant gestures, moments of contemplation that gave the character a soul. That process took months of experimentation, from limb movements to how Sonny tilts his head when thinking. In 2004, motion capture technology was still new, But thanks to the success of The Lord of the Rings, they successfully applied it, so Sonny would not be just soulless CGI. The result was a robot audiences empathized with, lonely among identical NS5 units. Many viewers later still say Sonny is the most alive character in the film, and it was Tudyk's real performance that made that possible. 3. US Robotics exists in real life as well. US Robotics in iRobot was directly inspired by US robots and mechanical men, the fictional company in Isaac Asimov's stories. But interestingly, in real life there was also a company with a very similar name, US Robotics, or USR, once a famous modem and networking equipment manufacturer in the 1980s to 90s. Although not directly related, the coincidence blurred the line between fiction and reality. When the film was released, many viewers searched for US Robotics online, hoping to find a real robot company. That detail serves as a reminder that Asimov's ideas about robots and artificial intelligence deeply influenced the real world. Today, when we talk about AI and robots, the name US Robotics still evokes memories of a time when science fiction was gradually becoming reality. 2. The film score was completed in just 17 days. The iRobot score was composed by Marco Beltrami, and he had exactly 17 days to complete the entire soundtrack for this science fiction blockbuster. The pressure was enormous. The film needed a cold, mechanical sound mixed with intense action rhythms. But post-production time was shortened due to constant script changes. Beltrami worked day and night composing and recording with a symphony orchestra in a cramped studio. Even so, he created a distinctive sound, echoing metallic tones, mechanical drum rhythms, tense violin passages when the robots rebel. Listening again, the music blends perfectly with the images, heightening emotional climaxes without overpowering the story. Those 17 days are proof of talent and dedication. A blockbuster score usually takes months, but Beltrami achieved it in record time, contributing greatly to the lasting impression of iRobot. 1. The 3 laws of robotics. In the film were deliberately bent. One of the most controversial details of iRobot lies right at its philosophical core. Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics were not kept intact as in the original works. In Asimov's short stories, the 3 laws were constructed tightly, almost inviolable. Robot 1. A robot may not injure a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Robot 2. A robot must obey orders given by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Robot 3. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first 2 laws. It was the subtle, logical contradictions between them that created their deep appeal. But in the film, the laws were simplified and reinterpreted to serve action conflict. VIKI does not break the 3 laws. She expands their definition in an extreme way. Protecting humanity is elevated to the highest level to prevent war. Disease self-destruction. Humans must be comprehensively controlled. Freedom becomes a danger that must be eliminated. This was not a technical mistake or a script loophole, but a deliberate choice by screenwriters Jeff Vintar and Akiva Goldsman. Instead of keeping robots trapped in complex Asimov-style logical loops, the film shifts to a totalitarian AI model, easier to understand, easier to visualize, and easier to turn into a tangible threat on screen. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss our next videos. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next video.